important aspects of servant leadership is the concept of virtues. Virtues are rarely talked about in corporate America, yet it's essential for anybody that's a servant leader to understand the importance of virtues. In the ancient Greeks, they spoke predominantly about 4 cardinal virtues. Cardinal meaning the most important virtues that one has and how they interact with each other. The 4 virtues they spoke about were wisdom, fairness, courage, and moderation. And each one of them are integrated with each other. For example, wisdom is not only the ability to understand something, getting a basis of information and knowledge, but it's really knowledge applied. How do you use the correct judgment in a given situation that's in the best interests of that individual and also in the best interests of the organization? So wisdom is very important. You look at fairness, for example. How do you deal in a fair and equitable manner? It's the old word that the ancient Greeks used to use in justice, that one really must be just. And we live in a world that often is unjust. And so justice is critical. It's not based upon opinion, but really what is true, what is fair. The third aspect of virtue is courage. And you need to have courage to deal with areas of fear, anxiety, or uncertainty that happens in the workplace. It takes an effective servant leader to deal with the problems of corporations, not only the business end of it, but the people end of it. And the courage to be able to speak the truth in love, courage to actually to engage in the problem, courage to not sweep it under the desk and ignore it and leave it to someone else's problem. I mentioned they're all combined together because wisdom and courage are, you can have a tremendous amount of courage but very little wisdom. For example, General Custer. Everybody in history books would say he's a courageous man. But realizing the data and the information that he had, he didn't use much wisdom as he was battling the Indians. So here was a person who was courageous, but he didn't have wisdom. Wisdom and courage belong together like fairness. The last cardinal virtue in the ancient Greeks had was moderation. It's the aspect of control. It's a discipline. It's to realize that there's a balance in terms of dealing with individuals and having a moderation to encounter people and not overreact, not to use your emotions to control your thinking, but in essence to have your thinking control your emotions. Now with the ancient Greeks, they focused upon these 4 cardinal virtues as critical, foundational to a person's character, their branding in life. When you begin to look in the first century, you found that almost universally people acknowledged the first century, these 4, but 3 more were added. 3 more that were in the first century, particularly in the Christian movement, that was essential to understand the concept of servant leadership. And the greatest model we have of a servant leader is Jesus Christ himself. Later on, the church developed some of the principles of following Jesus. And as they did, they always talked about these 3 cardinal virtues that are necessary for a church to be whole and well and sound. What I have found in corporations that these particular 3 additions to their virtues are essential for an organization to be healthy as well. And these particular virtues are faith, hope, and love. Faith is the aspect of trust. It's a concept of belief, to place your weight upon something. Faith, believing in where the organization is focusing upon, is designed for the good of not only the organization, but also good for the world. And good for the customers, the inside customers as well as the outside customer. That what you and I are doing really is creating a better world by the products that we produce in our organization. Hope is another characteristic they talked about. It's a sense of assurance. It's a sense of the opposite of what hopelessness is all about, and that there's a sense of something greater than myself, that there's more power in the many working together for one purpose than it is on individuals working on their own agendas in their own ways. And that you have this assurance that there's something greater that will be produced because everybody's working together on the same page. And then the last virtue is the aspect of love. The old term was really charity. If you want to use a modern analogy for that, it really is living for the sake of others. And one of the aspects that Dr. Greenleaf spoke about when he defined servant leadership was that the world would be better, that whatever we did was really needed to be done for the sake of other